Let's pray. Lord, may the words on my lips, the meditations of all of our hearts be acceptable to you this day, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. Amazing story came out of the baseball stories from August of 1957. Philadelphia Phillies were playing the New York Mets, and Hall of Famer Richie Ashburn was up at bat, and he hit a fly ball out into the stands. And it hit a lady right in the face and broke her nose, a lady by the name of Ann Roth. So they stopped the game, and they brought the stretcher out for Ann. And they put Ann in the stretcher, and they started wheeling Ann out of the ballpark. And the game resumed. And Richie Ashburn was still up to bat, and he hit another foul ball, and it went up into the stands, and it hit Ann Roth a second time and broke her leg. You ever had days like that? Ever felt you had days like that? I've had days like that. Anybody want to share their days like that? Sometimes life is hard, and we think that we're being picked on. Sometimes even being picked on by God. Mars One is something that's a new operation that might highlight, to me anyway, when I read about it this past week, about how bad life must be for some of us. You might have heard of Mars One. Mars One is an initiative that's come out of the Netherlands in order to put the first humans on Mars and make a permanent colony. They're looking for about 12 volunteers to go one way to Mars in the year 2027. Now, as you probably know, Mars is a very cold place. If you think Edmonton is cold, 133 degrees below zero, no oxygen, so they've got some problems that they've got to kind of work out before this happens. But as of last May, the number of applications to go one way to Mars reached 78,000 people. In other words, 78,000 people decided that to live on Mars would be better than what they had here. Psychologists, in looking through those applications, said that just about every single one of them was discouraged by their life here on Earth. Told that statistic to my son a couple of days ago, and he said, well, 7 billion people in the world, 78,000 discouraged, that's not so bad. But bad enough to want to leave Earth? What about you? Did you ever get so discouraged that you wanted to leave and just get away from the situation that you were in? I remember the closest for me that ever happened when I was in my 20s. A young man, a young youth pastor, who had actually brought me to Christ, who reintroduced me to a relationship with God. He passed away very suddenly and very sadly with a young daughter. I had an overwhelming feeling that I had to get away, that I just couldn't cope with the situation there. In the end, I didn't leave, but it was an overwhelming feeling just to leave and to get away. St. Paul never seemed to reach that point. He had good reason to feel the same way that Ann Roth did, or perhaps these people that are Mars One candidates. St. Paul never had the comforts of a family life. St. Paul traveled extensively, as you know. To travel in those days was not comfort the way that we have it today. It was, of course, very primitive ways of getting around. A lot of them ended up in discomfort. He was persecuted. He was shipwrecked in one of those travel experience that he had. He was beaten, he was sent to prison, spent much time in prison, and we believe that he was martyred in the end for his faith. So Paul made a great number of sacrifices for Christ's sake and for the sake of the church. And even after making all those sacrifices, he was persecuted, he was criticized heavily, still is to this day. And yet he never seemed to get discouraged. So how did he go through these trials and tribulations of life and never get discouraged? It had to be his great faith in God. So he has these words from 2 Corinthians 4. So we do not lose heart, even though our outer nature is wasting away. Our inner nature is being renewed day by day. Our outer nature, things that happen to us, are wasting away. Our inner nature is being renewed day by day. For this slight momentary affliction is preparing us for an eternal weight of glory beyond all measure. Because we look not at what can be seen, but at what cannot be seen. For what can be seen is temporary, and what cannot be seen is eternal. So that's his response to all those hardships that he was experiencing in life. Paul is sharing his heart for the church here, as well as for the trials and tribulations that he's going through for the sake of Christ. And he tells us that there is a possibility of handling those setbacks, those persecutions, those dark days that we have in our lives. And how was he empowered to do so? He was empowered to do so by that immovable faith that he had in God. If it was me, I would have given up long before he did. I'd be complaining like crazy. In another sports analogy from the 1990s, some of you who are basketball fans might remember the name Jimmy Valvano. Jimmy Valvano died of cancer in 1992. I have a short clip I'd just like to show you. He gave an amazing speech, and I just want to give you just a little bit of that speech. He was being given an award, and he was announcing the V Foundation for Cancer, whose motto is, "Don't give up, don't ever give up." In this clip, you'll see, as he's making his presentation, a sign comes up saying he's got 30 seconds. Now, here's a man who has been told that he only has 60 days to live, and he's being told he has to get off the stage in 30 seconds. It's quite humorous. Have a look. The quality from 1992.
Time is very precious to me. I don't know how much I have left, and I have some things that I would like to say, hopefully, and I'll have something that will be important to other people too. But I can't help it. Now I'm fighting cancer. Everybody knows that. And people ask me all the time about how you go through your life and how's your day. And nothing has changed for me. As Dick said, I'm a very emotional, passionate man. I can't help it. That's being the son of Rocco and Angelina Valvano. That just comes with the territory. Right? We hug, we kiss, we love. And when people say to me, how do you get through life or each day, it's the same thing. To me, there are three things we all should do every day. We do this every day of our life. You're going to have, what a wonderful, number one is laugh. You should laugh every day. Number two is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number three is you should have your emotions moved to tears. Could be happiness or joy. Think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, that's a full day. That's a heck of a day. You do that 7 days a week, you're going to have something special. And the screen is flashing up there 30 seconds like I care about that screen right now, huh? I got tumors all over my body. I'm worried about some guy in the back going 30 seconds. Huh? You got a lot? Hey, phenomenal, buddy. You got a lot? I think it was. I just got one last thing. I urge all of you, to enjoy your life, the precious moments you have, to spend each day with some laughter and some thought, to get your emotions going, to be enthusiastic every day. And Ralph Waldo Emerson said, nothing great can becomes without enthusiasm, to keep your dreams alive in spite of problems, whatever you have, the ability to be able to work hard to come true, become a reality. Now I look at where I am now, and I know what I want to do. What I would like to be able to do is to spend whatever time I have left and to give and maybe some hope to others. All right, Arthur Ashe Foundation is a wonderful.
Don't you love that? He says the body's filled with tumors, and he died 2 months after this. And somebody was telling him he's got 30 seconds to finish. He wasn't going to pay too much attention. He says, to me, there are three things that you should do every day. We should do this every day of our lives. Number one is love.
You should laugh every day. Number 2 is think. You should spend some time in thought. And number 3 is you should have your emotions moved to tears. Could be happiness or joy. But think about it. If you laugh, you think, and you cry, and it's a full day, and it's a heck of a day, and you do that 7 days a week, and you're going to have something special. I love those words. The speech went on quite long, but he ended it this way, saying, cancer can take away all of my physical abilities. It cannot touch my mind. It cannot touch my heart. It cannot touch my soul. And these are 3 things that are going to carry on forever. I thank you, and God bless you all. And like I said, 60 days later, he passed away. He could have been echoing those words from St. Paul, so that we do not lose heart, even though our outer nature is wasting away, our inner nature is being renewed day by day. He had that same confidence of St. Paul, that assurance that Christ was resurrected. And he had that absolute certainty, St. Paul did, that Christ was alive. And he knew, because Christ was alive, that life conquers death. And he knew, because Christ was alive, that hope conquers despair. And he knew, because Christ was alive, that love conquers hate. Because he lives, St. Paul was saying in a way, I can face tomorrow. Because he lives, all fear is gone. Because he lives, he holds the future. And life is worth the living because he lives. When we despair, we need to have that same kind of faith, that same kind of hope, that same kind of attitude that St. Paul has. Especially in those times in our life, like we all have when we want to give up. Because Christ lives, tomorrow is better than today. I know many of you in this congregation personally. I know some of the hardships that some of you have experienced. I know that for the most part, rather than being bitter about your experiences, you have become better because of those experiences. In those dark days that you have gone through and that you've gone through in a solid way, you've been a witness to your faith. We all love those mountaintop experiences where everything is going along perfectly well for us. It's good to have those days. It's good to experience those days. But we all recognize that it's the dark days that build our character. It's those dark days that we can be real witnesses to our faith. It's been said that God will use our mess as a message, that God will use our tests as a testimony. And so we go through those dark days, and when we go through those dark days, we can be empathetic to those who are also going through dark days, better able to share the love of Jesus Christ. That's one of the reasons why I encourage people that go through Teen Challenge and Freedom's Door to stick with those that are going through those kinds of struggles. Those who have overcome those kind of dependencies are such a credible guide for those that also suffer those kinds of difficulties and those kinds of struggles, because they relate in ways that we, without those dependencies, cannot. They're walking witnesses to God's ability to overcome that kind of suffering and bring it into fullness of life. Paul knew that there were going to be dark days. He experienced those dark days, and he knew that we would experience those dark days. So he writes, even though our outer nature is wasting away, our inner nature is being renewed day by day. We will not lose heart. That's the hope that the believers have. Hope of believers of the early church as well. It was that hope that allowed them to be taken into the Colosseums and to be torn apart by lions. It was that hope that they had in Jesus Christ that allowed them to be burned at the stake and to be burned even as streetlights out in the streets of Rome, because they wouldn't recant their faith in Jesus Christ, who was their great hope, a great hope for all of us. A hope that says, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. A hope that says, this too shall pass. A hope that says, I won't give up or despair, For all things work for the good of those who love God and to whom God calls. And so I say to you, do not lose heart. Our witness to an unbelieving world is important, whether we're on mountaintop experiences, whether we're in the depths of those valleys that we all experience and that we all go through, or whether we're on a level playing field. God is with us and God goes with us. Thanks be to God. Amen. Let's pray. Lord, all of us want to spend our time on mountaintops, experiencing the wonderful things that we have to experience here in the Okanagan especially. But we recognize that it is on those dark days in our life, when we've had losses, when we feel for whatever reason that we can't go on, that our character is truly built and our character is made. And so while we don't wish that on others, we see the character and feel the character that's being produced in us when that happens. Allow us to be an example like Jimmy B is, that even though in those dark days and those days of despair we can be an encouragement, even a humorous encouragement to others, and to encourage them to grasp onto life and life in all its fullest, that life that you have promised to us through your Son, who called us when we gathered together to pray in this way, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil.